continue our series of webinar today and, with Miki Mitrovich. Miki Mitrovich, she has a lot of experience in five-star hospitality, mainly in States. She worked many years for Four Seasons in Boston, and she was much more in marketing and sales. And as you can see today, it's a very interesting issue about customer acquisition and retention. Then this is a trend word. Everybody is speaking how to engage the customer more in hospitality industry, and that will come back after the pandemic and even today, because it's an ongoing process. Then I will let now Miki to start it, and I will ask you at the end to start putting on chat your question, and I will ask to Miki each of your question one by one. Thank you very much, Miki. Please, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Ray. Just making sure that everybody from a sound check standpoint can hear me okay. And if there's anything, go ahead and jump in and say you need to speak louder, etc. Is everybody okay with the sound check?
Yeah, okay.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Great. Okay. All right. Miki Mitrovich is my name, as Ray mentioned, and I have been doing sales, marketing, strategy, revenue for years and years and years, not too many years. And I have been looking at revenue management for this session. And the difference between what Horatio did yesterday, for those who listened to Horatio yesterday, and what I'm going to do is basically the difference between a functional revenue, which he talked about yesterday, and strategy today. So because he gave you an overview of revenue and the importance of revenue for the hospitality business, and I 100% agree with that, that revenue is kind of the core of the business. Now we're going to add the layer of strategy, and I'm going to include sales in this, because when you look at new markets for the recovery, and we have to go after new markets for the recovery, we have to reset what it means to go after new customers, meaning customer acquisition, and retain the current ones that we have, as long as they fit within the profile that we're looking for in order to expand our business. Everybody, I think the whole world is in the same position, so we're all trying to muddle our way through it. There are no answers that are concrete, but there are a set of strategies that you can take, that one can take, in order to move and attempt to move business. And that's what we're going to focus on today. So starting off with a quote that I think was appropriate for this by a thought leader in the US. Recovery starts with flexibility. And I use this specifically because we all have to be very, very flexible. Now, that may seem obvious to everybody, but flexibility means for us that the old rules don't really apply today, and that we have to really think outside of what our normal business parameters looks like. So flexibility is not for us to keep looking for trends that we know to be true. We need to start looking at trends in the future. What will this mean for us short-term, mid-term, long-term, as long as it takes for us to fully recover? So flexibility is going to be something that we're all going to have to get used to. And you as leaders, most of the people who are on this call are general managers, directors of sales and marketing within hospitality, restaurant owners, etc. So flexibility means that we need to start communicating to our entire team that flexibility is going to be what's going to carry us through this whole situation. So recovery really is about resetting our ideals and our mindset for flexibility and customer acquisition and retention. Acquisition means to go out and find new customers. Retention is to keep the customers that we have. So there are three ways that we're going to look at this. The first is to adapt and create. Adapt, number one, is to adapt to the new market. And the new market is, we don't know what the market is. We have to go out and find it. Create is that I actually, as a business owner, as someone who's looking at my customer base, have to come to the realization that I have to create something. The business that we normally had and we have been experiencing for quite some time is not going to be the thing that is going to carry us on, certainly through the short term. So I have to create a new market. I have to create a new business strategy that's going to be able to get me the revenue that I need to kind of weather this storm. Next, I also have to look at the value. What is my value to the market? What value do I want to maintain with these new clients, with this new market in the short term, in the medium term, in the long term? I don't want to get rid of that because I do have to be cognizant of that for positioning and for a whole host of other reasons. But what is my value that I'm going to bring to the market is the next thing that we're going to look at. And finally, we're going to look at who is going to be involved in everything and all of the components to make sure that my strategies are sound and that we're all looking at how I'm going to find new customers and retain the current ones. And everybody's got to be involved in that: sales, marketing, and of course, revenue. So normally what happens is sales goes one direction, marketing's going their direction, revenue's looking at things from a historical standpoint. We're all kind of doing our own thing, yet within the same overall brand concept and what the, moving profitability, all of that. We're still going to look at that, but now the team alignment has to be really all about reset, starting over in the short term, starting over in the medium term, and then finally getting into full recovery, which who knows how long that's going to take. I used SARS as an example because it was a pandemic, primarily in Asia Pacific. And when I looked at case studies from Asia Pacific, here were the numbers that came out. Yesterday, Horatio told us about 2009. And in 2009, for those who were on the call, when we had the financial crisis, it took 14 months to get a full recovery. SARS in 2003 took 18 months for a full recovery. So if we are to look from our hotel's perspective and within hospitality of our timeline, this is not a rule of thumb. It is simply a way for me to gauge kind of the time factor involved in recovery. So if I'm going to be looking at where all of these steps that we're going to take, at what point will I start seeing, quote, normal? We're looking at probably 14 to 18 months. So it seems to be a rule of thumb. Now that is assuming that in fall, come September, October, November, that we don't have a resurgence. If we have a resurgence of COVID-19, then we're going to have to reset there and think about, again, another 14 to 18 month cycle. So this is not a science by any stretch of the imagination, but it's just to give us a little bit of a time perspective on strategy. So the challenge really is there are no rules. So the rules have gone by, so we've got to create them. We've got to take a look at what's out. Now, Horatio's not going to be happy with what I'm going to say, and all you your directors of sales and marketing out there and revenue out there, I'm not suggesting that we throw this away, but strategic distribution and pricing tactics have got to be revisited. In 2019, we looked at distribution, strategic distribution, and pricing tactics based on a finite group of historical content. We looked at it from a historical perspective. What did everything that happened previously tell us about pricing, demand, all of that? It's not gone out of the window, but it certainly is now starting afresh. We have to reset what the rules are for distribution and pricing tactics. So 2019, January and February of 2020 is not what we need to look at. We need to look at completely differently, and we need to start creating what our distribution is going to be, strategic distribution and the pricing tactics. So we're resetting that as well. When we look at cancellations, what's in cancellations, force majeure, that's not going to go away anytime soon, especially if we have a resurgence in in September. So cancellations is something that now all of a sudden is in our realm, and we have to figure out how to deal with that. The new normal is there is no new normal. So we have to create one, and we have to create a normal trajectory, a normal way of doing business, certainly in the short term and in the midterm, because if we don't, it's going to be very confusing for our team. It's going to be very confusing to the market because we're going to start messaging differently. So the normal is what we create with our strategies. That's as far as we can go right now, and that's all we can control. And then we have to look at recovery. And recovery, in the recovery, as markets start opening up, we need to look at short-term and midterm, which is 2020, and then 2021, which is hopefully starting to get within the timelines when things start moving forward from a business perspective and when customers start coming back. But I want to just have you think about something right now as my slide presentation is moving forward. I want you to think of what is your objective for your business. Is your objective to simply stay in business, keep your staff employed, and have a little something to get you through until business volumes start increasing? Is your objective profitability? Yesterday, Horatio said that revenue management is all about profitability. I totally agree. But sometimes if we are just going to keep staff employed and keep ourselves open and just weather the storm, maybe I might think of less profitability. Maybe that's all I can do is just keep staff employed. So I want you to think about in your own business what your objective is short-term and medium-term. Long-term is probably going to be a little bit closer to what it was in 2019, just because volumes are going to increase and then the normal practices of business might change. But right now, in the early phases, I need to really think about what my objective is, because that's going to affect the way I price, the messages that I do, the way that I package. All of these things are going to be somewhat closely aligned with the objectives that I need for my business, okay, and which we'll get into that and we'll talk about that more. So customer acquisition, adapting and creating. First and foremost, we need to bring everybody together. We need a one-team perspective on this. Revenue and sales looks at markets from a different perspective. Sales is looking at it from a territory standpoint, from different segmentation. Revenue looks at all of those, but from a historical and demand perspective. Right now, we need all hands on deck to look at the problem and see what we can do about customer acquisition. What is the plan? Sales can't do it by themselves. Revenue can't do it by themselves. All of us need to look at this in unison. We need to look at data, and data is where revenue is going to come in, because we need to look at it from a geographic standpoint and a demographic standpoint. Who are the customers that we want to go to? I can think of these things, and Horatio mentioned yesterday, and I 100% agree, and the industry agrees, that the drive market, meaning within a close proximity to my location, that's the market that we're going to need to go for. We have, from a revenue perspective, a lot of that information from geographic and demographic. We need to start pulling that out. We need to take a look at, in our history, who has booked very short term, who's using from midweek to weekend in the drive market. We need to kind of look at where we can go to find business. Once they look at the demographics and the geographical makeup of our customer base from a historical standpoint, we can start making assumptions on who to go after. And sales is going to be critical to put their viewpoint on that, from agencies, from who they go to, what kind of customers have booked in the past outside of individuals. And then we need to start prioritizing short-term, medium-term. If I'm looking at this summer simply for families, because that's the only thing that has come to me historically in the summer periods, from a drive market standpoint, then that's what I need to focus on. That's the messaging that I'm going to do. That all of these things are going to be pieced together based on what my priority is for market penetration. And then once I figure out my priority, I figured out my geographic and demographical viewpoint, sales and revenue are together saying, okay, this is who we need to go after by the way of customer acquisition. I need to put together a rapid response because it's going to come up very quickly and I need immediate attention on this. So the questions that I need to ask are the three. How am I going to attract them? What am I going to message to them? And which distribution channels I'm going to go to find them. If I'm a hotel that has had historically long haul flights that have filled my season, I can't go to them right now. So who am I going to go to? If I can look at all of these steps and figure out who the best client perspective is, I can then start looking at distribution channels. I don't want to go to distribution channels without doing these steps because I'm going to have a mixed message. I definitely don't want a mixed message to the market because I can't be master of everything. I really need to focus and see how it is that I can attract the right customers to make the impact that I'm looking for. And these steps will give you a good indication. And finally, rates. Rates, I use the word sensible because I do have to have sensible rates. Again, going back to my previous comment about what my objective is, do I need to be more aggressive? Is my competition going to bottom out rates and I have to follow along, or am I going to hold my rate a little bit higher? Am I going to bury my rate through opaque channels like your Priceline and your Hotwires and all of those? Am I going to be very visible? Am I going to put out new packages? What kind of rate parameters am I going to put together? So all of this is making a decision, will price or will my value matter in lower demand? This is what I need to ask myself and the team. We all need to have this discussion to come out and formulate with what we're going to go to market with. Price is a trade-off. Short-term spike in volume, if I get the short-term spike in volume, I may look at how this is going to challenge me moving on in the 18-month timeline, 18-month timeline. Will that have a negative consequences long-term? So that's the final question that I need to ask when creating my strategy, okay? It is all a trajectory of understanding how my decisions today are going to impact for the duration of this period, however long it takes. So customer retention is meaning that I'm going to keep the same customers. And if while I'm looking at data geographically and from a demographic standpoint, if I have any customers that I can bring that are regular, I need to take a look at what my value is to them versus the value of the new customers. So brand loyalty, the people that have been coming to from a drive market to me anyway, I don't want to confuse them with a lot of new ideas, new strategies. I want to be cognizant and aware that my brand loyalty, the customers that are brand loyal, are going to be expecting similar things from me, even with this pandemic and the effect of pandemic on business. So I'm going to have to balance all of that around. I'm going to have to look at repeat customers versus new ones. The interesting thing is I have to make a decision as to what I want to be identified in the market. If it is through packages, if it is the family spot, if it is that I'm going to be the perfect getaway vacation for the weekend in short term, how is it that I want to be identified in the market? It will also reflect on the value that I have in the market. And that is all part of retention, because whoever I get in the short term, I want to keep them for throughout this entire cycle. If this entire cycle lasts 18 months, the people that I get in short term, I'm going to want them to repeat as well. So it's got to be a very methodical idea on how I place value on the pricing that I do, the packages that I do, and how I merge all of that together with existing customers and new ones. So safety, will safety be far more important than knowing a guest's name? If I was famous for knowing a guest's name before, do I still want to be famous for knowing a guest's name once my pricing drops once my all these new customers come in? That is the question. Do I want to shift my focus to safety? But yet the customers that are already knowing my product, I still have to use their name. So that's going to be a balance, and it's going to be, as leaders, we're going to have to balance that with the rest of our team, frontline, throughout the entire hotel. So the strategy has to be in short-term, mid-term, and long-term. Short-term is which promotions and package am I going to use that may not necessarily affect the long-term, meaning I may not want to use them further out. There's a specific package that a lot of luxury hotels use that only through distribution channels. It's book 2 nights and get the third for either 50% or free. They're still maintaining their rates very, very high, but they're going to be able to get the lower price based on total pricing. So I may not want to use that long term, but I might want to use that short term. So I really need to look at the promotion, what's the inclusives, how am I presented in the market as well with the packages that I offer. In the midterm, I'm going to look at transition, meaning the short-term promotions that I put together might not be applicable once volumes start increasing. So I'll want to adjust very quickly from package to a little bit more normalized. That's going to be something that I'm going to have to look at from a timing standpoint, and revenue is going to have to help me with that. And finally, everything that I do for the midterm, short-term and midterm might not be applicable at all, and I may have to stop them entirely. But that is a matter of being highly agile in the market. So when we look at total team alignment, revenue, sales, and marketing, in the normal world, revenue, sales, and marketing do tend to, as I mentioned before, work independently. I have to make sure that if I marry my concepts with revenue and sales, meaning specific package, specific messaging, et cetera, I have to make sure that marketing is doing the same thing that I am. A lot of times marketing is looking at more brand perspective. I want everybody to be involved with this period of recovery. I want everybody to have to question our tactics to make sure that we don't undermine long-term brand perspective in the market, long-term positions. So the total team alignment is going to be very important for this process to go forward correctly. It starts with a common purpose, and the common purpose is your objective. Is the common purpose really to match the market, to do something different in the market? Whatever it is that your team comes together with, it has to be a common purpose for all entities, revenue, sales, and marketing. We also want to take a look at leadership. And leadership is that your entire team is aware that we have to do this. We have to make sure that if security is going to be our primary focus, that everybody's talking about security, that we understand how to position security, that we understand how to talk about it, what are some of the strategies that we've done with it. So the leadership that we provide has to pave the way for alignment throughout the entire plant. We need of course, agility, quick response, and of course, the ability to adapt to recovery, because if in 6 months' time, all of a sudden things start opening up and things start going back to normal, I need to shift back to what my strategies were in 2019. So the agility is going to be very important for everybody. And if they're all aligned with a common purpose, that's going to be much, much easier to do in the long run. And finally, I have to make sure that everybody's operating at optimal. So that means my meetings are going to have to be much more quick, in that we need to take a look, is it working, is it not? Are my packages working or are they not? If they're not, what else can we do? So this brings back the word flexibility. So if everybody's operating at optimal, everybody knows what the strategy is. Everybody knows that we need to test the market and make sure that we don't undermine our overall business. That is working at optimal. And we want to make sure that each of our team is operating with self-development, learning webinars, looking at the hospitality is having a lot of information for hotels to help them through this situation. And there's a lot of benchmarking, really good benchmarking ideas out there. So that is one thing that we constantly need to do to keep ourselves abreast of the changes that are happening in the industry, so we can keep in time with those changes. And finally, it's a perfect time to get your team to work better together. The one thing that I think in all of this, if we can pull everybody together for a common purpose, it will help us in the long run immensely. And ideas exchange should become common practice. These conversations that we're having during this crisis should be something that we should be doing all the time. But you know how it is when business volumes are up, business is rolling, everybody's doing things. We tend to be very insular in thought. This will be a very good way to bring ideas exchange in and keep us all fresh, even as we transition to a full recovery, whenever that is, 18 months, 14 months, or however long it takes. So as you prepare for recovery, we need to ask ourselves, really, what will I do today? What of any of these steps, what is applicable, and how is it that I'm going to lead us through this process? How is it that sales, marketing, and revenue can take a look at this problem from multiple different perspectives and views and come up with a very sound strategy? That is what we need to come up with very, very shortly. And certainly for the summer, as soon as everything opens up, that we need to be to market strong with our ideas already. And a quote that I love, and it's appropriate for these the time that we have right now: the unknown is simply the field of all possibilities. It is in the unknown where the magic lies. And the magic, I believe, and having worked with many, many teams in good times and in bad times, it's when everybody comes together that becomes the magic. And that is when everybody is having great ideas. There's a common purpose. There is an underlying good faith that everybody's working together and everybody's trying to problem solve through this situation. And finally, that's it. Thank you very much. I'm open to any questions that anybody has. And let's see, with Ray, if you want to see what kind of questions there are.
Then thank you very much, Miki. Now let's please send me some question. If you didn't send already, because I saw no question for the moment, then you can do it live. I'll start till you think about. I'll start to one thing. Then what I want to ask you, Miki, then in fact, when we are speaking about engagement, is not starting when you'll open the property. As we know, then it's about a journey, a customer journey, and the customer journey long before we starting to try to engage the customer. If we are waiting for the customer to engage him when he'll be in the process, it will be too late. Then my question is, from everything what you present, what hoteliers they have to do now before this in order to start already begin the relation with the customer? Okay, in which way? What are the methods to bring the customer, at least in virtual way, on their side, and to try to capture the customer, because if not, it will be too late and everything will happen once again through the OTA, and to restart the fight how to bring the customer on my side, how to have in contact directly and not through the OTA.
Okay, so in regards to customer engagement, we definitely throughout this entire period have to be talking to our customers, and we have to let them know what our strategies are for our long-term relationship. If it depends on where your customers are, each each hotel has, and everybody in hospitality has their customers coming in from different areas. We should be constantly talking to them anyway. We should be reaching out to talk to them, not on what business do you have, but how is it that we can work better together coming forward? How can we help in the process through recovery? Is there a way that we can look at your business, our business, and see how we can come together? There's going to be a lot of customers that are going to want you to reprice. So if we go out to customers and talk to them first, it is a way for us to keep the goodwill going and start problem solving, so that even if they don't come within the short term, if they can't for any reason, at least we have them and we're going to protect them as our own customers going forward. So the communication that we have has to be strong, and it has to be not just one time, hey, how are you doing? And what can we do for you? But in this is what's happening, this is what's going on, and have them in intervals until the market recovery happens.
Okay, then thank you very much. For the moment, we don't have writing question. Then maybe somebody will start to break the ice and to start asking the first question. In the meantime, I was asking this, Miki, because I saw no one hotel trying to do something virtual for the customers, and they have it in the database, deliver a nice product, something to keep them in contact with the property.
Yeah.
Nothing. I don't see any, and people have time and they have the possibility, even if you distribute a movie on the hotel site, and come with us and let's see together tomorrow. We have a very good movie. We pay it, it's for you, you can watch it. Or do something, let's travel together, let me show what we've done in this period around the hotel, in the room, and something like this. Nothing. In fact, nobody is in contact with the customer by providing something interesting for the customer. And it will be too late. It will be too late because once again, the OTA will know what we have to do. We have the first question. It's coming from Svetlana. In your opinion, it is important in this pandemic situation to quickly search the market and what customer need.
Could you repeat that, please? I'm sorry.
That in your opinion, it is important in the pandemic situation to quickly research the market and what customer need.
Yes. You're going to get a lot of that from revenue. Revenue will have a lot of that information. That's what I was talking about demographically and geographically from a revenue standpoint. That is the direction that revenue really needs to go, is understand what big data means to a hotel, so we can start identifying which customers might be potential for, as I mentioned, short-term and medium-term. So the revenue managers have that information historically in the database. It's just a matter of sourcing through who's booking short-term, are there weekends, who's booked historically during this time period, and then doing the steps, how to communicate, etc. So that is probably the most important thing, is geographic and demographic data that can be pulled.
Thank you very much. We have a second question. It's a rhetorical question from Adina because she gave a little bit the answer. She's coming also from a 5-star from Bucharest. Two-part. Firstly, she wants to know if you think that the guests will change their preference in regarding of hotels that what they will choose. For instance, people who are used to go in a 5-star hotel, maybe Adina, she thinks that, do you think that they will choose now to go in boutique hotels because it can be much safety for them? Then this is an important question. In the habit of the customer will be some change because of the pandemic and their way to work with us and to be engaged. What do you think about this?
Well, it's also going to be, if, for example, safety, they may go for a boutique hotel unless, of course, we give them reason to stay with us or to come with us. So that's part of the messaging that I was talking about, because if it is safety that we can see, and revenue is not going to be able to pick up from a demographical standpoint or geographic weather safety, but we will know that from outlying sources, and we're able to see from what the market is telling us if safety is going to be important. If it is, then I will have to message to that. And what I said earlier about is safety going to be more important than knowing my name? How strong am I about presenting safety, what we have done, some of the changes that have been made to the hotel for distancing? For example, I checked with a hotel in the US, and the social distancing, it looks so, with tables with X's on it, it looks very kind of hospital-like. We can really take a look at how we do distancing and move it up and start talking about the way that our hotels position for distancing, and that we've thought through the plan. And even though we'll have like 30%, maybe we'll shift the way that we do breakfast. Maybe we'll have breakfast appointments, but these are the things that we need to communicate, that we understand safety and how safety is going to reflect the customer experience. So that's a communication issue.
Thank you. Stefania Quinton, she's asking you if, do you think that will be a shift in distribution channels importance?
Okay, yes. And the SARS example, the case study from SARS indicated that there was a spike in online booking as a result of the pandemic in Asia. There is no reason that we shouldn't expect the same here. There is a lot of people who are at home looking online, and I think that the OTAs are definitely going to get their share, and they're the big fish in this pond. So I think that there's going to be a lot of OTA push for us to with the hotels. So OTAs are not going to diminish in this at all. I think they're going to increase, and history has shown one example of them increasing post-pandemic.
That it's something completely logical, and that will depend more and more on the OTA after, because it's much more easy to check on your computer which hotel it's opening and how and not on the conditions, than to go and to test it by yourself.
Yes.
That's of course okay. And on top of this, what I mentioned also, there are an army of people from IT staying home. What do you think that they are doing now? Okay, they are just pushing new application. Thank you very much. The next question is coming from Wana. Do you think hotel need to start taking into consideration new service they never offered before the pandemic, so that the customer feels safe as a part of their offer? If yes, what those be?
Yes. Right now, the most important thing is for us to message that we understand the rules have changed, and we understand that safety is a priority. So if we can message that we are looking at our business models, and we're looking at the service delivery and how they have shifted. If we don't have that, and it can't be a negative, it has to be turned into a positive. As we understand the market has changed, we understand that security for your family is a priority. We are doing multiple steps to assure that the hotel is meeting the needs of the post-pandemic world, or something like that. Not to get bogged down with too many examples like cleanliness, hygiene. I think everybody has they know that's going to happen. We don't need to tell what it is. We just need to reconfirm that we are taking an active role and a serious role in providing security measures. And that has to be part of the conversation, and part of our, as we are looking at sending out messaging, that's going to have to be part of the messaging.
Thank you very much. And another question is coming from second part from Adina, that when it comes to retention, what are the choice when all the guests who are business guests and the most likely will not be able to travel for a while? Yeah, it's true. It's also the segmentation, please.
Okay. In regards to business travel, unless you're positioned in a market that, for some reason, because of that, a specific market's going to bring healthcare workers or maybe legal, maybe there's some thing that is going to bring a specific sector to your city. I don't calculate that we're going to have business travel in the short and medium term. Probably for 2021, I would imagine that everybody's going to get anxious to get back, quote, on the road. But in 2020, short term and medium term, I think we have to find alternate sources of business for business, alternate sources of clients for business travel, because I don't think that market's going to come to fruition, certainly through 2020. It could be a surprise, I could be wrong, but indicators are saying that business travel is going to be soft. So that's why the geographical and demographical view that we look at and historical view, how are we going to replace and with whom are we going to replace the business transient? Because that's going to be a big hit, quite honestly.
Okay, Mihai Moisescu is switching now from restaurant to hotels. He's with us and he is asking you, how do you think the hotel should manage the availability in this period? How much you should let book the table from the hotel capacity, as I said, should be at least 24 hours before the guests. And in fact, it's a capacity management issue in which way we have to manage the capacity now and what they have to show and what they have to do in this context. Availability, okay?
Okay. So here's a couple things. And in doing research for my presentation today, I talked to several sources about things like breakfast, for example, things like how are we going to control the in-house guest versus the traffic that we want to get anyway, because we have to have both. In-house guests, especially as it relates to like a breakfast, we almost need to think more about how are we talking to the guest. Maybe we think out of the box, and the in-house guests, we ask them, because of social distancing, we're going to have you come in either later or earlier, not for them to just show up, but give them time periods which hotel guests are going to come in. Because we have social distancing, we can actually set new rules. And from a restaurant perspective, if you are trying to get outside people, maybe you look at your volumes the first little bit, the first week, look for some trends and see if we can start pushing the hotel guests to let us know when they want to come in earlier. Maybe we ask them for when they check in, we are having social distancing, therefore we're going to need a little bit more advance notice when you would like either breakfast or when you are going to be using some of our outlets. So these are the things that we're going to have to shift. And the hotel can do that legitimately because of this scenario. So customers are going to be much more, oh yes, that's a good idea because you're social distancing. Maybe I'll let you know that I want to do breakfast at 10:30 versus at 6. So, but we can't make these kind of decisions until we start having about at least a week of trends so we can start analyzing how it is that we're going to do this process. Does that make sense?
Yes, and you have a question very related to this one coming from Ionuț Platon. He's asking, what do you think that some other methods have to be reinvented in the sales process? Because we are a little bit obsolete in the way that we are selling, and probably have time now a little bit to rethink about other methods in the sales process.
Other methods in the sales process, you mean during the recovery period?
And after, what will be new in the sales process?
Okay, so during the this period, we need to be very, very clear that constant communication with our customers is going to be very important, because although we have to shift our resources to filling short-term and midterm, we still need those customers once we start looking for recovery, or if they have business in the interim. So we need to set our sights for these, particularly third parties. We need to entertain what the third parties are doing. I would go out to my third party clients and get as much intel as I possibly could on what they're experiencing, where they see their business going. They're going to be able to provide a lot of information to you. So the third parties are going to be very important to start re-engaging in, whether they have business for you or not in the short and medium term. So the third party, your travel agencies, all of that are going to have some very good intel and might be able to give you ideas of how and who we need to go after in the short term. The analytics that the distribution from the distribution channels are going to be also very, very important for us to make determinations. Once we look at who's going, we actually can start looking for customers who fit that profile. But I'm probably not going to want to do something that is in recovery now, because I need to focus on the most important thing, which is trying to drive business as quickly as I can. So as we start moving, then I'm going to start focusing back on trying to get more business for a more normalized time period, which is after recovery, whenever that's going to be. Does that make sense?
There is another question coming from Juana. She's asking if an hotel have to think to other services in this period, and not just for this period, but even after, and to reinvent and to deliver other services. Related to this question that I like to share with everybody, and 2 years ago, Sebastian Bazin, the CEO of Accor, he started a new project, and the name is the Hotel Season. That means that an hotel have to open the doors and to serve the local community and to make at least 30% more in the turnover by serving the local community. Because usually, as you know, that if you are living in a town, you are not entering an hotel because you think that you have nothing to do with this hotel. And he wants to attract much more people and to use this hotel. Unfortunately, the pandemic came and it was a little bit difficult. But I come back to one question: what other services, and it is not just for you, Miki, what other services can be reinvented for hotels? I give you an example. In Switzerland, some 5-star, they transform some floors in offices, okay? And even in Romania, I saw an hotel and they changed this. And what do you think other services that it can be?
The sky's the limit, quite honestly. This is where the entrepreneurial spirit comes into play, and it's very, very important. I'll give you an example. I don't know if you guys heard the Four Seasons Hotel in New York. They opened up 4 of their floors for medical staff because in New York, obviously the situation is very dire in New York, but the Four Seasons has opened up several floors so that doctors don't have to go home. Doctors and nurses and medical staff, they can come in, and they gave them free room. And that is a wonderful thing. It's a very heartfelt thing to do, but it also was a way to get promotions, get some recognition. It's a good way to do it. So services doesn't have to be money-making services. It could just be things that we do from our heart to help the situation. Other ideas are, anything that you have, if you want to promote, if you want to put in like food to go, food delivery, anything along those lines. If you want to take a look at your health club, and maybe your health club that you normally only had for guests, maybe you want to do for a short period of time, you want to sell memberships, or maybe you want to use it for different purposes. Right now is the time to start looking at these ideas and see if they have any legs. And if you come up with something good, and once again, revenue, we'll see how much all of these services will do, but it would be good to test them out. And if it works, then create a business around it in more normal circumstances. So yes, absolutely. As much as you can come up new, I would do it. And most importantly, include your staff, because they too are going to be looking for ideas to bring up, and they're going to have some good ideas. They're going to have a lot of intel on who's doing what, etc. So make this not just one person, but include the entire team in coming up with ideas.
Okay, then Anka, she's giving an example. She says that in Bulgaria during last summer, for all-inclusive accommodation, there was always meal scheduling for groups of tourists because not all restaurants had enough capacity space to serve for all at once. So this measure is not very difficult to be implemented. What other measure can be added from this point of view? What do you think about this? Then hotel was able in Bulgaria to manage the overcapacity and to prepare meals for the tourists that they have no place in the restaurant.
Fantastic. These are the type of things that, once again, entrepreneurial spirit and looking for a need and filling the need. There's a lot of things that we can do and we should do, quite honestly. So these type of things, see if they work, and who knows, you may continue in other circumstances and when the recovery starts happening. It's a very good idea, and you'll start seeing, especially this summer, as hotels start looking at their own business and seeing that they need to do something different if they're not getting the volumes. You're going to see amazing changes and shifts in business practices. I think it'll be very inspiring.
Okay, then Larissa Budaka, she needs your crystal globe. Okay, then find it and please tell her that if the business segment will recover just in 2021, then what do you think there are segments to attract for the remaining 2022 by a business hotel?
Okay, if I understood correctly, assuming that 2021 doesn't return in the business segment?
Yes, she's assuming what exactly the opposite what I'm thinking, that 2021 will not be a good year for the business traveler. Then what other segment we have to attract if we are a business hotel?
Okay. That's a different one. Crystal ball, that's going to be a tough one to come up with. If you look at your demographics and your geographical, if you are a business hotel, you might want to take a look at who else has been coming to your hotel. For example, if you had a lot of weekend guests, maybe like golfers or sports people or something like that, that would come in and using a venue close to you or something. If you can figure out any one of those non-business guests, analyze who they are, and then go out and start marketing to them to try to get more. Because the easiest way to find out new markets is to see what already has come to your hotel, what already has been using you organically. And that's the biggest thing, organically, that are coming to me without really my knowing it. They're just coming in. Try to find out who those organic buyers are of your product and do a determination of what they look like, why they were there, how long they're going to stay, package that up and go to market with it. That's the best way that I would say in 2021 that you can start creating new markets, is to look for those organic customers anyway that had been using you over the years and start marketing to them, because you have been focusing on, more than likely, just the business customer. Everything else was icing on the cake. So you're now going to have to look at the icing on the cake and start marketing directly to them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
If you allow me, Miki, just one thing that I like to tell to everybody: do not go in this trap. It's not because in all media we are discussing just about resort, about holidays, then that will be the structure of the tourism. Usually the business segment is moving faster, but you cannot see the business segment on the TV and on the media. Usually the business have to restart, the business traveler need hotels before everybody else, okay? Then don't let you impressed by the emotional impact of the media, what they are speaking. Think rational, what has happened after all this crisis. Everything is starting with the business. If it's not business, there are not holidays, okay? Then we have another question, and it's coming from Goran Vulovic. So he said, people are very upset. They are sick and tired about all this. Why not hotel transform a little bit too much to do much more entertainment and to have escape room and some other things to do a kind of therapy for people after this period. Okay.
Was there a question?
But I don't know. It was a question. Goran, it's an idea. Okay?
Yes, it's a great idea. It's a great idea. Why not do an escape room? That's an excellent idea for everybody listening. If you want to do a different type of service at your hotel for either short-term, midterm, or just keep it forever, something like that would be fun and new and exciting.
Sorry, Miki, I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes.
It is kind of idea, but like example, the question is what is about approach, entertainment approach. It's question, is entertainment good approach in this time and even for a business hotels?
Okay, the answer is yes and yes. Be careful with the word entertainment because people are looking for things to do. An escape room is a thing to do. So if you are, for example, this summer, we don't know what the volumes in business is going to be for this summer. So if I give people, and I'm social distancing and I've got all these safety rules and these things that I'm kind of putting pressure on the guest, I want to lighten them up as much as possible. I want to lighten the
For me, it's okay.
as much as possible. So things like entertainment
Thank you.
is definitely a possibility and definitely something that I would go for because it's family friendly, it's good entertainment. It's not like I'm getting a rock and roll band and pretending that all of this is not existing. I am just giving my customer options, and I think that's a very good option. Okay.
Thank you.
So, any other questions?
Entertainment was a very good idea as far as that we can be entertained by 3 people, not more, because there'll be some limit also. That's the problem. Yeah, there are a lot of questions. Dan Stringer, he's asking, in your opinion, what you can do to attract guests in our hotel after this pandemic and to make them feel relaxed, not with a lot of restriction. And this is a real question, because instead of having this entertainment and everything else, we'll have so many rules to respect that will add a new stress for the people that is going out at home. Then she's absolutely right. What is your idea, guys? Then you go for freedom and you arrive in an hotel where you find once again a kind of prison because you have to respect all kind of rules. Okay, what will be the solution? How to cover this part? Miki, please, and other people.
Okay, so here's my perspective. And at the end of the day, the staff, your staff is going to have to carry this load. The staff is going to have to understand that although I may be wearing a mask, although I'm concerned and I'm a little off balance because I have to practice social distancing, I have to kind of be aware of all these new rules, I still want to engage the guest sincerely and authentically. The authentic nature that your hotel had before in 2019 is what I want to maintain with a mask on. So I want to make sure that my team, my frontline people especially, are beyond the mask, as friendly as I would expect them to be, as my brand parameters tell me. I would want my staff to relax with the customer, make them feel very at home, kind of go that extra in that touch and feel without, keeping social distancing, but remembering a name, remembering, oh, we had you, welcome back. Make a little bit more attempt to have that humanity, that human touch. Masks are a barrier, and it kind of makes everybody a little bit pulled back, and I know we need to do it, but that engagement factor is going to be very, very important, that each one of your staff makes an effort to make the customer feel at home and feel relaxed when coming here.
It's another question to relate to this one. Somebody is asking, I don't have the name, then somebody is asking, how do you manage the fear? Our fear, customer fear, and staff fear. And this is very related to what you mentioned, Miki. If I will be cynical, you made the best way to manage the fear to create another fear, higher than the first one. But if not, there is something that we learn from safety and security from many, many years experience. Then do your job in safety and security, but don't show too aggressively to the people. They will never appreciate, okay? Safety and security have to be discreet, have to be in a smooth way. And if you push people to show a lot of police in the hotel and don't have to do this and that in an aggressive way, you lose your customer. Okay? That's sure. It's exactly what Miki said. Then do it, but do it softly and do it nicely. And like this will protect everybody and the psychology of these people. And it's another question, Alina Rapan, the hotel with a fidelity program and membership benefit will still be considered as attractive for the guests, like in the period before the COVID-19. Then what's about the fidelity and the loyalty programs?
Okay, my perspective on loyalty programs is they are not going away. Whatever your loyalty program is, if you have, especially on those hotels that are affiliated with like an IHG hotel or affiliated with a program, whether it's American Express or anything along those lines, if you have a loyalty program, customers' propensity to select you will still be there. The only caveat I say on that is to make sure that when you are communicating through your loyalty program, whatever it is, that you do the same thing that with every other guest. We are doing this because of security. Communicate well to them, and definitely invite them back. We are here for you. We want your business, to make sure that they feel really good that they're coming back. But loyalty is not going away anytime soon.
Okay, that it was Leah Suchu who she asked about the fear. Then Leah, I don't know if we give you the answer, but test it with your husband, how is market, how is working with the fear. Then now we skip to other question. Then not Svetlana, that it was an interesting question from Adina Marculescu. Do you think that on short term, the difference between 3-4 star or 4-5 star due to the sanitary measure will be a difference, dropping rate, lower number of staff, and that will disappear? Do you think that will disappear as a barrier between categories?
My impulse is to say no. And the reason I would say no, and of course I might be wrong, but I think the ingrained nature of the different levels of hotel based on their brand perspective is going to shine through. And as general managers, as directors of sales and marketing, as leaders in your hotel, you still want that brand to shine through. So although the hygiene, the cleanliness and everything else is going to be of paramount, that's here, but whatever is the foundational is going to stay. The foundation of the brand is going to stay, and that's going to come through. So absolutely. I don't know that will change.
Then absolutely, and this is something important to understand for everybody, because now a lot of media, they are saying it's the first time that we have something like this. We don't know what to do and how to do. If you want to have a crystal globe and you have to have trend, you have to look in the past, because it's as in revenue management. You cannot have revenue management if you don't have historical data. Right. And what do you know regarding these things? Then after economical crisis, the luxury segment will come faster than probably the 4 and 5 star hotel can recover even faster, because the luxury start traveling before the other segment. That was happened in the past, and probably the psychology of people will act in the same way. That I don't know if I skip any other question. Yes, it's Stefania. She's asking also about the shift in distribution channel. do you think that will be a shift in the distribution channel importance?
Honestly, I am not quite sure. I know that distribution is going to be something that we have to figure out, especially since we're going to start messaging to new customers. So the distribution channels that we know and that we are currently using, are they the ones that we're going to use to reach our new customer? I don't know. But I would imagine that there's going to be some shift in how the rooms are coming in, especially with some of the opaque ones, because the opaque ones are, as you know, they don't show who it is, but they show a price point. So it's going to be bringing a lot of people who probably don't know our product so well. So we'll see. We'll see. I tend to think that the OTAs, as I mentioned before, and certainly with the SARS example, they're going to come on strong. So we will have some new ones that we haven't had before. And I think there will be some adjustment.
Okay, Adina Trandafir, she's coming with a question. In fact, it's not a question, it's an idea, and she's a rhetorical question. She's asking why not to think to other important things as organizing tour, organizing different activity with the customer in order to make them feel better and to go out from this. Then in which way this can be done better for an hotel than organizing different other activity out or from the hotel with the hotel people.
Shall I respond to that?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. So very good. We have to figure out if we want to package that. Because again, that's something new. Right now, we're so focused on security and safety. This is part of the entertainment piece. Just like Goran was talking about doing a escape room, maybe we go to market and maybe we now start filtering in some really good package ideas, and maybe we have something new to offer. Let's say, for example, we do our demographic and geographical review, and we see that perhaps families within the 50-mile radius or 50-kilometer radius, 100-kilometer radius is something that's important. Maybe because they know my city so well, maybe I come up with a program of something new to offer them. So packages that include new tours, new things that maybe people haven't seen, new ways to perceive my city, my destination is always, always, always a good idea. So it expands out, creating more desire for my destination. And that is, as I said, it's a very good thing. And if I could package together something new and exciting, another draw to bring them in, because destination is equally as important as my particular location. So blending the two, I think, is great.
Okay, please allow me to share with you that an example that it's something that I find it fantastic. It's a friend of mine, a professor in IMD, that he passed away, unfortunately. He started 7 years ago. He created a brand, and the name is Chateau Form. In English, that means fortress. Then he's taking over a chateau and a residence for out-of-door activity for companies. He organized with auditoire, a theater, and seminar rooms, and is managed just by a couple, man and wife usually. Then they are doing everything. And for instance, for the lunchtime, you go directly in the kitchen and you take the meal directly from the chef. That it's wow, what a privilege, yeah? But you have no waiters, nobody to the bar, nobody serving in this. Everything is free service. You can take what you want, you do what you want, but their main activity is to organize this kind of trip, to visit farm, to visit everything with the people from the company. This is existing. The name of the chain is Chateau Form. In 7 years, they arrived to 38 properties.
Wow.
38 properties in 7 years. About a huge success in France, in Switzerland, in Germany, in Austria. It's a good example how you can have a good idea with just 2 people, or maybe 1 for the maintenance. You organize a fantastic business. just corporate, just event, just outdoors, seminars, everything was done like this with no personnel, just a couple of people, because he preferred to give everything, in the Western Europe, then the problem are the salary, not the stuff, the what you give them. That he preferred to let everything in the free service, or the drinks and everything, even the PlayStation and ping pong table and all. And people, they are serve themselves. They feel free. They feel that can do everything. For the hotel, it's perfect. Then the payroll is very low, and they organize this kind of trip exactly as you suggest. Then we can learn from this chain also. Do you have a very last question? Somebody from the floor, or somebody who asked a question and I didn't know, I didn't saw it.
Can I add something to that, Ray? Food, wine, entertainment, interest in destination, all of these things will not go away. Even with new markets, even with new demographics, all of that, they're not going to go away. As much as we can offer things that people find attractive, things that people like, things that they find interesting, all the better. So these are, when we think of services to offer, these are the type of things that will go a long way. And a lot of it is not going to be expensive for my operational side. So it's a matter of tweaking my operations a little bit to add, a couple things. So it's not going to go away. And I think small amount of money involved in shifting, and it's going to be a lot of return, because the last thing anybody wants to do is go to a hotel and feel sterile, like it's a sterile environment. Hotels have to be hotels. Hotels have to be the place where people find to get away from things. So that will not change.
Excellent. Then sorry, Aminta, I cannot translate your question, but I can tell you that I find the letter that is different from the other is the H at the beginning, all the other are N. Thank you very much. And do you have a last question for the floor? Okay. Who wants to finish with a very nice question at the end?
Can I add something, please?
Please.
I saw a few hoteliers pushing to keep the same prices as before COVID situation.
Yeah.
And then I saw also some of them doing like 50% discounts or trying anything to get the clients in. And also there was an interesting article last week saying the Sicily is basically covering 50% of your return flight, and every third night is paid or for free in the hotels.
Yeah.
But what if it's state of mind of the people at the moment that no matter what, some people, there's no chance they're going to be forced to go to Italy or Spain or France, even if it's 80% off.
Yes. That kind of, Sasha, goes back to the objective, what your objective is. And clearly Sicily as a destination is greatly impacted. So at this point, they're in the keep the business going and pay for staff. So they'll do whatever it takes. Each hotel is going to have to, each enterprise, I should say, is going to have to figure out what their objective is. There is one hotel that I worked with in Paris that no matter what happened, if there was 10% occupancy, the rates would never change because they had an owner with deep pockets. So we have to figure out in the spectrum of, I need to keep staff employed to, I have deep pockets and I really just want to make sure I maintain the brand. Somewhere along the way, we're going to have to come up with what we want. So you're going to see hotels coming up with a lot of things just to get business. We just need to be smarter. Prices, as you know, as everybody knows, once you start reducing prices to a great degree, to bring them back to what they were in 2019, for example, if I start reducing prices, it's going to take 5 years to get my price point back to 2019 levels. So I need to be very judicious. I need to look at the financials and really make quality decisions on pricing. Ideally, I don't want my published rate to sacrifice too much. I want to package it in somehow. As I said before, using 2 nights and get the third one at 50% or whatever that is. Somehow disguise the depth of discount that I'm actually offering. But if you have to do what you have to do, then there you have it. If everybody in your competitive set is €100 difference than you, then you might have to think about what you want to do. It's totally up to you. If you're after profit, if you're after whatever your objective is what position you need to maintain, or at least try to maintain. Does that make sense?
It makes sense, Miki, for people who are direct in hospitality and hotel industry, because from the customers and they are traveling, they do not understand and they think that now all the hotels, they have to go half a price and everything. But
Yes.
if you ask them if they will accept it half a salary, I don't think that they will accept it. Then the problem in hospitality is the fixed cost. Doesn't matter what are you doing with 100% occupancy and 20% occupancy, you have to pay the same number of salary. This is us in retailing. Then my colleague Horatio Tudori, he told you 2 days ago, yesterday, do not do that. Keep your price. Keep your price because you've done it once, but after you need 3 years to come back to the real price. It's not easy. Do not do that. We are people from the industry. We are not customer. We have to explain to the customer that this is not possible. And if you do this sacrifice, you'll win the market for a few months, and after you'll be out of the market, and that will be you can close.
Yeah.
Then do anything else, but not that. I don't know, Joel, are you with us? Joel? Okay, just show it with our friends the Hoover story. It's very important for this question and to learn about. Okay. Yes. Yes, Hoover, you know what is a Hoover, yes? And Hoover, it was the largest company for cleaning machine in States. By the way, you are saying to this, do you have your Hoover? Okay, please. Yes, they are out of the market. They are so clever to extend this offer also for Europe. And then people, they say, wow, fantastic. I buy a Hoover and a ticket to go in Europe. That's it. Okay, then be careful once again. There are some things that you try to do at the beginning and you'll suffer for the rest of the period. Then it's much more important to pay attention now to every movement that you are doing and don't make a lot of sacrifice on the price because you'll make sacrifice on the cost. And that is not rational. It's not reasonable. Okay?
Yeah. There are other ways.
Very last question. Do you have a very last question? Somebody want to say something at the end? Okay.
Okay.
No one you want to ask a last question to Miki? Okay, dear Miki, thank you very, very much for this interesting subject. Thank you all for your participation. Today you asked 43. Then thank you very much and see you soon. Then this Friday, tomorrow will be no talk. And Monday we will start after next talk on the other Friday with something very important for you, hospitality and health. That will be done by Professor A. Pizzam from University of Central Florida. And that will be very interesting for everybody. Thank you very, very much. See you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you. Thank you, Miki.
Welcome.
Bye.